Right, I think we'll get underway. So once again, can someone just confirm you can see that initial slide, connections?
Oh, good, Elliot.
Good, fantastic, fantastic. Well, thanks and welcome to our session. So just in the next 45 minutes, I'm just going to be giving you a brief overview of Connections, the recent Salesforce B2C event that was held in Chicago last year. And we'll probably spend maybe 15, 20 minutes on that. Just a brief overview of my key takeaways. And then we'll jump into AMPscript 101. This is actually one of the sessions I delivered at Connections on the last day, which was very well received. So I thought it would be a good opportunity to kind of replay it to the group. So firstly, what is Connections? A bit about it. So a bit of background is that this Connections was formerly an exact target user conference, which started out in 2007. And back then, I think the first meeting they had 500 attendees. And it grew to become one of the largest digital marketing conferences in the world. It was held for 8 consecutive years in Indianapolis. And at the end, I think the one in 2014 I attended, there were 10,000 delegates. And then in 2015, it moved to New York. You know, this is a format that it didn't really attract the same number. I think we had like 3,000 or 4,000. You know, the format really didn't work, and our kind of Salesforce acknowledged that. In the following year, it was held in Atlanta and started to grow again. It was then announced to be held in Chicago in 2017. They announced that at Dreamforce in 2016. But then in January 2017, much to the surprise and disappointment, I think, of many Connections alumni, it was cancelled, which actually prompted me to write an open letter on LinkedIn to Julie Legal, the Senior Vice President of Salesforce Strategic Events. And while I can't take the credit for having it reinstated, it was added back on the Salesforce events calendar in April this year, and was just held last week in Chicago. So this is first time in Chicago. Just a couple of comments about it. I mean, it really, I've written an article on LinkedIn, and I encourage you to go and read it. It's a 5-10 minute read, which will kind of elaborate on what I'm going to talk now in this kind of condensed version. I guess the main difference was Connections as well. Firstly, acknowledging it bore all the hallmarks of a standard of a Salesforce event. You know, the format was very similar. It had slick keynotes and flawless demos. But in some ways, it was actually different to previous Connections events. Previously, Connections obviously started out as an exact target user conference, which changed to a Salesforce Marketing Cloud user conference. But Connections this year had actually changed to a business to consumer event, or business to customer event, where both Marketing Cloud, Commerce Cloud, and Salesforce DMP were equally represented. That there was actually rumor and plan to go and change the name to Elevate, I think was the placeholder name, but I'm glad to see they retained Connections. So what did we see at Connections? Well, I think any Connections alumni will tell you that the capstone of all previous Connections events in bygone years has been announcements. And it's almost that Salesforce or Exact Target probably back then, and Scott McCorkle felt under obligation to make announcements. And to be honest with you, I mean, I've much as I'm always excited to hear new announcements, over the years I've grew to become somewhat skeptical. I mean, we've seen many premature announcements at Connections, and some that actually new features announced that don't actually make GA. I mean, of memorable note, from, I'd say, playbooks introduced back in 2012. They initially launched 3 playbooks, and these same three playbooks exist today, buried in the user interface. It's like kind of that journal feature for Microsoft Outlook, introduced in 1998, and I guess it's kind of hard to remove, but it lies dormant today. Another one is Journey Builder. And while Journey Builder, that was originally announced in 2013, and it's a very solid, strong customer journey management platform today. I mean, you really can throw rocks at it. Back in 2013, when it was released, it really wasn't ready for GA. In fact, in my opinion, it wasn't until the January 2015 release that I'd say it was really ready for GA. And in 2014, they actually went in and rebuilt it and changed the underlying architecture. And don't mean to harp on about it, but 2014 Journey Maps was announced, and it's kind of I think a few of us were scratching our heads saying, "Well, what's that about?" But that never made it to GA, even though it was announced. So what was announced are connections. Well, in fact, there were no new announcements, and that was kind of a surprise. There were some key announcements in the Marketing Cloud keynote. The first being, which is Google Analytics 360 integration. This was actually announced at Dreamforce last year as kind of a pre-release announcement, I guess. But in short, this integration enables GA 360 insights, that is Google Analytics 360 insights, to be surfaced with inside Marketing Cloud. And then you can actually target these GA 360 audiences within a journey. And this is really it's a significant announcement. This is the first time that Google has actually opened up their data model to a third party and enabling this level of integration. So it's very unique to Marketing Cloud. I had to say that it's not Google Analytics. This is GA 360. It's $150,000 US annual product, subscription-based service from Google. And then there's kind of various support options on top of that. But another platform or product that was announced at Connections was Interaction Studio. Now, Interaction Studio is now kind of bears a new name. This was originally announced at Dreamforce 2 last year as a partnership with Thunderhead, where kind of this new offering, and it went through some name changes in the past few months, but is now badged as Interaction Studio, which is interesting. I mean, I remember Interaction Studio actually used to be the predecessor to Journey Builder, developed for, I think, Microsoft at the time. But it's an appropriate name, and I think they're reusing that name to align with their product name and strategy. And you've got these studios and these builders. And what it does is it integrates with all customer touch points, including offline ones like call centers, in-store point of sale system, in-store or branches, or ATMs even, and other offline channels. And it listens to I guess all of it takes in this voluminous data. And a decisioning engine in Marketing Cloud enables marketers to serve the next best action across any channel, including corporate websites. So, you can have a call to action with, become a member now, that is surfaced both to unknown audiences who visit a corporate website, and just through using a JavaScript a tag will kind of feature this message on a website, and also obviously within Marketing Cloud and sending emails. It's really, I think, I see it as Salesforce's response to Pega, as it provides very similar functionality. And from reading the press release, I mean, it appears that its target market is primarily orientated to financial services. I know that in Australia there are a lot of Pega users in financial services market, and so it's a natural complementary offering to Marketing Cloud, and really I think fills a fills a gap. So it's going to be interesting to see where that goes. I mean, it comes with a, it doesn't come as standard. This is an additional product. I think, so price tag probably sitting around $300,000 US dollars a year. So it's certainly not within reach of kind of small to medium marketing cloud users. Another feature that was announced was Einstein Segmentation. This is also a kind of a re-announcement. It was released earlier in April this year. You might have picked that up in the release notes. And Einstein Segmentation leverages actually DMP data, that is machine learning and pattern analysis from DMP, to enable predictive decision splits and within Journey Builder. So we're seeing a new Einstein split activity within Journey Builder, where based on a customer's predicted behavior or persona, will route them through an appropriate branch in Journey Builder. So you can create a persona in DMP, and then go and target that segment, or but base other personas such as likelihood to click on an email as an example. And you can go and read in the release notes to see all the different available branches. So despite the new announcements or lack of them, I'd say there were some unannounced announcements. So there are a number of features which are yet to be released, clearly yet to be released, and yet to be announced formally. But Salesforce really took a very different approach in sharing with the audience what's coming. And so that include many unannounced Einstein features that we're seeing we could expect to see, I guess, in Marketing Cloud shortly. So firstly, live weather block. So this is a block widget for Content Builder for emails, and it enables relevant content-based weather conditions at the location where the email is open. So obviously using GeoIP lookup, and if it's raining, in the city, then, and I'm an outdoor retail clothing company, maybe I want to show waterproof jackets, rather than beach gear, as an example. Another one was Campaign Insights. Now, Campaign Insights, this is interesting. It provides recommendations to improve message engagement. For example, it goes and analyzes all the emails you've sent, and then surfaces top performing subject lines. And there's a Einstein recommendation widget that pops up and saying, recommending applying this past subject line to your email based on the content. Another feature was send frequency analysis, and this identifies the optimal engagement rate per subscriber to maximize engagement and reduce attrition. So, rather than using Marketing Cloud as an email cannon and sending an email to all subscribers, with a kind of weekly cadence, it enables us to see that, well, actually this person isn't opening their email every single send. They're only opening one every 3. So, let's not skip sending an email to that subscriber. And this in turn, of course, would aims to go and increase that open ratio. An interesting feature is frequency analysis, and I've got a very blurry screenshot of this. So let me show you this here. This is actually taken from a theatre presentation, and what this is showing us is it shows us the distribution of all our subscribers, and identifies oversaturated subscribers and undersaturated subscribers. So that is, subscribers who are receiving far too many emails and those who aren't receiving enough. And then through this dialogue here, you can see in a single click we can create a data extension for these audiences, be it oversaturated and undersaturated, and then obviously go and target them maybe in a campaign or inject them into a journey. Other features that were shown, again, I want to emphasize, these are unannounced features. Pay very close attention to those forward-looking statements, and hopefully we can expect to see these in a future release. But we've got author resonance for Social Studio. Now, this is interesting that it identifies influencers who are having conversations or tweets about our brand, and surfaces those so you can maybe have special communication or relationship with them. And finally, custom workflow classifiers, also a new feature for Social Studio, which goes and adds intelligent classification to incoming posts, like priority and related topics. So it goes and has a look at that sentiment analysis. And if you've got someone who's really saying something maybe negative about your product, this is something that you would want to potentially action first. And it has automatic routing capabilities to really improve response times. So there were some unannounced Einstein features. We had a look at those. Others. Now, another key takeaway was that they released both, well, that they previewed both in a theater, but also in an open usability focus group with some new onboarding features. So the current onboarding process, that is, what's called going and standing up an account and going configuring SAP and what have you, is heavily today, it's quite onerous or over-reliant, should I say, on Marketing Cloud partners. And so they've completely redoing that interface and focusing on more of a self-service approach for new customers, where they can step through wizard-style interfaces and go and step through that onboarding process themselves without needing intervention by a partner. In another usability session I attended, they previewed and solicited feedback on journey builder features that they're working on, which included like a A/B testing activity, which obviously doesn't exist today. So that was quite exciting to go and give feedback. Having Einstein split activity as well. So rather than a random branch and or a DMP dependent split activity, so this will go and route a customer through a branch which are most likely to engage. And there were some other enhancements and improvements to the Journey Builder interface, like the ability to go in the Journey Builder canvas to go and collapse branches. So that's if you've ever built or seen a complex journey, it can be quite awkward to navigate through that journey across a very crowded canvas. It looks like something for a rolled up newspaper. So this is a kind of obviously a very welcome enhancement. And it was interesting to see that Salesforce was sharing these features that they're working on outside of an NDA context. Look, I guess my takeaways were, I thought it was a great connections. It was great that it appears they've moved away. They don't feel like there's an obligation to come up with a new and exciting feature. I really, it was certainly an exhausting 3 days, but a very revitalizing one too. I walked away, with thinking that this realization that Salesforce recognized that their platform isn't quite perfect and there's still work to do, but they clearly have a long-term vision. And I, for one, believe they're heading in the right direction. So anyway, if you weren't able to attend Connections, I strongly encourage you to see if you can make it next year, because I think we've got some great things in the works, and can expect to see big things for Marketing Cloud in the incoming releases. So on that, do you, maybe I can take questions just for 3 minutes before I move on to the next topic. Does anyone have any questions about Connections? And if you attended Connections, I know that there's some people on the call who did, feel free to pipe in an answer. But if you go unmute, anyone? Can someone actually go on?
Eliot, I got a question for you.
Sure.
What's your, and this is not to do with Connections, just a generalization. What's your personal opinion on Salesforce's use of the word Einstein?
So yeah, Einstein is, you have to remember that Einstein's not a product per se, but it's really represents an acquisition shopping spree that Salesforce went on over a period of 18 months and acquired many AI-based technology companies. And existing technologies such as what was predictive intelligence. That's the IGO Digital acquisition by Exact Target, actually, in 2012 for $2.5 million. Was it 25? Anyway, numbers aside, that was. It's now branded Einstein. So I can, to answer your question, I think it can be somewhat confusing and misleading term, because people think it's this big massive engine, but it actually refers to lots of disparate technologies that do different things.
Yeah, I guess I was asking the question more from the fact that when they kind of really started pushing the name, they rebranded a bunch of stuff that they already had Einstein, like the PI stuff.
Yeah,
but it's more the fact that everything that's got an algorithm at the back of it, they think is, or they're kind of pushing is AI, when it ain't really.
I said that's a bit unfair, not necessarily having an algorithm. I mean, there are many aspects of AI. I mean, there's machine learning, there's image recognition, and I've actually
NLP, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Yes, but I think if it falls into that bucket, then it's and Einstein is often misunderstood and actually sometimes oversold by Salesforce, of all people, of having mystical supernatural powers. But all it's doing is it's automating those decisions that humans would make, from technologies of autonomous driving in cars. So it's that's really kind of all it is, or what it is. But having said that, I mean, I recognize that AI has a significant future in direct marketing, and but for example, like take journeys. So designing an optimum journey, of what that optimum journey should look like for, I don't know, maybe it's an abandoned cart series. Every single marketer is going to it's totally subjective, right? Every single marketer is going to design something slightly differently, and often these marketers are coming up with new versions without which have no statistical relevance. I mean, the fact that 5 people have dropped off this branch doesn't mean you have to jump in and change it. So I think what we can expect to see is, like, Einstein will go and add kind of power the cloud and automate some intelligence to rather than relying on humans to make those decisions and those business rules. Okay. Any other questions? Right. Okay. So I think that we'll move on to AMPscript. This is in fact, just not to distract you, let me go and let's not go and put up this slide. So I'll just go and maybe open up a blank tab. So I actually presented this session at Connections in the Theatre, and like I said, I think it would be helpful to share it with you. So firstly, I just realized that I haven't explained who I am, and there was a number of new names on the call. So let me just provide a 30-second resume. My name's Eliot Harper. I've been working with Marketing Cloud for many years now. I've written books and articles on Marketing Cloud, including a latest book, which I co-authored with Adam Spriggs, who's on the call, the AMPscript Guide, which is a comprehensive and definitive reference manual for AMPscript and Salesforce Marketing Cloud. I encourage you to go and read it. A lot of this documentation is actually available for free. You can go and click read. We spent a lot of time just over the past week making some significant usability improvements to our site. So now for our readers, you can easily go and search and navigate the book and change the format. So anyway, encourage you to go and check that out. So gosh, what else? I'm a Salesforce MVP, or Most Valued Professional, which is an award given by Salesforce to recognize experts on the platform and their contribution to the community. So like Adam, in fact, there are 3 Salesforce MVPs who are experts in Salesforce Marketing Cloud. Adam and I are 2 of those. So firstly, before we get into AMPscript, let me just start off and explain what is AMPscript. So AMPscript is a server-side scripting language, but unlike other general purpose scripting languages like, I don't know, Ruby, PHP, Python, AMPscript is specific to a platform or runtime environment, and that's Salesforce Marketing Cloud. Now, I mean, getting started with AMPscript can feel intimidating for many, but it really doesn't need to be, as the language follows a simple syntax and semantics, making it very quick to learn and easy to code. And with a basic understanding of the language, you can quickly gain proficiency and create highly personalized and sophisticated marketing communication across multiple channels, be it email, web, and mobile for mobile push or SMS or MMS messages. AMPscript is a language in 2 parts. The first is syntax, and the second is functions. And AMPscript actually has many similarities to Excel. Actually, maybe you can speak up if you've never used Excel before. Okay, well, that's good. It's a good start. All of you use Excel. Let's firstly take a look at the syntax and functions in Excel, and then we'll take a look at AMPscript. So jump over to Excel. Now, I don't know, let me just zoom, jump out. Can everyone see that? Yeah, I've got my Excel spreadsheet. Or can someone comment? Yes, I see Excel. Eliot?
Yes, Eliot, we can see that.
Thank you. So what we have here, this is some data I put together. This is actually lead data for a fictitious travel company. And what we're doing is calculating a lead score based on different factors. So I've assigned each lead. So let me just, I'll just undo what I did. I've assigned each lead a numeric score from 1 to 10. And then we've got a calculation of this weighted total where this number is calculated by a constant value and is used to derive a cumulative weighted total, the score out of 10. And because what we want to do is we want to give an offer, a different offer to, let's say, hot leads, in that we want to give them a 10% discount because they're probably going to buy anyway, so there's no point in overly discounting their first purchase if they're going to buy anyway. So whereas warm leads, we want to give a higher offer, give a 20% discount. Now, so what we're doing here is effectively, I guess, determining that next best offer based on a ranking criteria. This criteria differs. We've got it's based on the company in target industry and size. We've got what stage of the buying cycle they're at. We've got whether they're an influencer or decision maker in that purchasing process, and some other factors too. So now, so Excel actually supports something called variables, which you may or may not realize. It's very simple to use variables and convenient in Excel. You simply go and select a selection, and then from your formulas ribbon at the top, click Create from Selection. And when we do, we define what are the names that we're going to use as variables. And that's what I've done here. If we go to our weighted total and click in here, we can see that rather than typing cell E2 multiplied by cell B17, this is it can be quite hard to read, right? But if you actually go and assign them as variables, it provides you with a very easy to read, where I've gone and defined a numeric value, and in this case, company weighting has a numeric constant of 0.05, for example. And if obviously if we're doing this using cell values, you have to have the dollar prefix for fixed cells that as we duplicate the calculation over different rows, so that remains constant. So with variables, we just don't need to do that. It's very handy indeed. So what we've got is we've actually got a number of different variables here. I mean, here we can see examples of constant. These are static fixed numeric values. This weighted total, weighted total is also a variable in Excel, and this is a formula, isn't it? So we're multiplying, we're performing this calculation of multiplying company score multiplied by company weighting, then adding that to buying score by buying cycle weighting, and so on. And we derive an offer. Also in Excel, we have something called functions. And let's take a look at this function. So here we actually have a nested function. So let's start with the inside out. We've got the Excel if function. The Excel if function accepts 3 arguments. So one is our logical test. So that is if weighted total is greater than or equal to 7, then we want to display the hot of a variable or the warm of a variable. And we've nested this function inside a concat function, where we're saying we've got a string get a, and then obviously that function, and then that's suffixed with on your first booking. So that's something about working with variables and functions in Excel. So let's go and take a look how to perform the same calculations and resulting AMPscript and resulting output in AMPscript. So firstly, I'm just going to go and show you a data extension. What I've done is I put together a data extension, or I thought I did anyway. So let me just go and find that data extension. And this is actually in connections folder. And here I've got that data extension of lead. So all I've done is I've just imported that same data that we're just looking at in Excel. For each record, we've got these numeric scores. That's all good. And then I've got an email with 2 parts. I've got an AMPscript block up here, which we'll look at in a second. And I have some inline AMPscript. So AMPscript is recognized by its delimiter pattern. And all code in AMPscript must be surrounded by opening and closing delimiter patterns. There are a couple of different delimiter types in AMPscript. We have AMPscript blocks and inline AMPscript. And perhaps it's going to be easier to look at that if we jump across to a syntax highlighted version in Sublime Text. I'm actually using an AMPscript highlighter, which is available as an install package. So up here we have, just delete this now, and we have an example of an AMPscript block. So an AMPscript block defines the code for interpretation, but doesn't display any output where that block appears on the page. There are a couple of exceptions to that rule with some output and output line AMPscript functions, but in generally speaking, just like other server-side scripting languages like PHP, it won't display any output where that code appears. Inline AMPscript, however, provides a very convenient method to interpret and execute functions within a message context. And this is represented by this delimiter pattern of percentage equals and closing by a matching delimiter pattern, whereas AMPscript block uses as square brackets. Just a couple of things with inline AMPscript: you can only use functions. You can use nested functions, but you can't use any variables. So it's just a very convenient way of displaying this online. And AMPscript is actually, AMPscript functions are referred to as what are called pure functions, in that they take some input, these arguments passed to the function, and return an output. So in this case, it will be a message on the page. So there are actually 147 built-in functions inside AMPscript. And with AMPscript, you can pretty much do anything. You can leverage the existing functions and also even integrate with third-party APIs through some HTTP functions that are available in AMPscript. Actually, 15 of these functions are identical. 15 of the AMPscript functions are identical to Excel. And we've got a couple of examples here today that we're going to be taking a look at. So let's take a look what I'm doing in this code. So firstly, up the top here, these are a variable. So a variable, just like Excel, this is it's a user-defined taxonomy of what we're going to call the name. And now I encourage you to use variable names that have context and meaning to the reader or to the developer working on it. But before we can use variables in AMPscript, we have to declare them, and we declare them using a var keyword. And then variables are recognized by an @ symbol prefix, and we can have a display or declare these variables as a comma-separated line. I don't have to have separate var lines for each variable that we're declaring. For convenience, we can comma delimit them, as I said. And what I've done here is I've actually got several var lines, and this is just really for kind of readability without word wrapping, that I can kind of see at a glance. For those of you who have already used AMPscript, you might have observed that actually AMPscript works without declaring variables. And that's true. I mean, AMPscript is defined as what is called a loosely typed language. And there are very few rules in AMPscript, but it is best practice to go and declare variables before setting them, as when you do so, it adds those variables to an internal variable dictionary, and which is going to have a performance benefit if you declare them first. So once we've declared our variables, we go and set them, and we set our variable, and the way we set our variables is that there are, I guess, 4 components to a variable. We've got the set keyword, then we've got the actual variable name itself, which we've declared earlier, then an equal symbol, and then what we're setting the variable to. It could be a constant, in this case a numeric constant. It could be a string, and the string is you have to put quotation marks around it, either single or double quotation marks. It could be a Boolean value. Or it could be a function, just like Excel, right? So we saw that we set a variable to a function. Note this single equality symbol. So this is, I guess, the only place you use a singles equal symbol in AMPscript when you go and set a variable. As a comparison operator, use two equality symbols. So what's happening here? So we're going to set these variables, and I'm now setting this a variable called company weighted total, and I'm setting this as a function, and I'm using the multiply function in AMPscript. These functions are slightly different but similar to Excel. But what we're doing is we're multiplying a company score, that is the field name company score in a sendable data extension. So this is an attribute. It's going to get the value against the subscriber in the context of the send, and it's going to multiply that against company weighting. So that's that numeric constant of 0.05. And then we're going in taking that score and adding that against a buying cycle score in our data extension multiplied by buying cycle weighting, and repeat this process. This is just, there are many ways of writing AMPscript. This is kind of how I've written it. I mean, because we can't go, the add function in AMPscript only accepts 2 parameters. I can't put 1, 2, 3, 4. The resulting sum of this recency weighting total is exactly the same as that AMPscript, as the Excel calculation. And I think that I would argue, in fact, that this kind of cumulative approach is a lot easier to interpret than a very long line here in Excel. And so now we've calculated that, we can, and you'll notice that in my email, I went and placed that in my header. I mean, it could appear anywhere before my inline AMPscript function, but in my email, I've got a concat function. This is on my call to action. You probably saw when I opened my email, where we're concatenating the string get a, and then we're using this IIF function in Excel to saying that if the value of recency weighting total is equal to or greater than 7, then we're going to display the hot offer variable, otherwise we'll display the warm offer, and then concatenating on your first booking. Now let's go and compare that then with how we'd perform the same AMPscript function. Sorry, it would perform the same output with Excel, an Excel function. And in fact, you'll notice that they're identical, or almost identical, with one minor exception there. That is, in AMPscript, we don't use if. If is actually reserved for statement as a keyword. So we're using IIF or IIF. The arguments passed to the function are identical. That we've got a logical test and the result of true and the result of false. So hopefully that shows you how easy AMPscript is. As I said, many find it intimidating, but it is actually very quick to learn and easy to code. I encourage you, if you're not already using AMPscript, to explore its capabilities in your next marketing communications. And of course, a great starting point is our book, which documents all of the AMPscript functions on help.salesforce.com and many undocumented AMPscript functions too. And also provides many working code examples for you to go and reuse. Well, that concludes that presentation. Now we've got maybe a minute or two for questions, and maybe Adam can come unmute to help answer those. Any questions about AMPscript?
Hi, Eliot. This is Himanshu from Melbourne. How are you?
Oh, good, thank you.
Yeah, just a quick one. Up the top where you're declaring the variables.
Yes.
And I can see that they're in 4 different rows.
Yes.
Is it just for visual or is there a reason for them to be
Yeah, no,
separate rows?
I said, it's purely for visual because, if I have this kind of wrapping, and it's, it's just kind of personal preference, really.
Yeah, I thought so. I think I missed out. My connection cut out in the middle. Thank you.
Yeah, and look, I mean, so something else with, you can go and encourage you to do so, to add indentation, you can break actually even functions across different lines if it makes it more readable for you. Subsequently, AMPscript, I mean, it's just like JavaScript, or HTML for that matter, could be interpreted in this kind of minified layout, on a single line. I mean, this AMPscript will still be interpreted. But
yeah, good.
This is kind of hard to read.
That's right. I thought so. Thank you.
No worries. Any other questions? No, but well, if you have any, please feel free to reach out to us. And any AMPscript questions, I encourage you to go and check out Salesforce Stack Exchange, and particularly look for that AMPscript tag or Marketing Cloud. And this is a great community where the chances if you have a question of that's how I learned AMPscript at least. I think Adam very kind of patiently put up with my basic questions, but no question is too silly. So Salesforce Stack Exchange, great resource. It's not a code writing service, so don't say go and give me code for Preference Center. But it's a great community. So yeah, thanks once again.
Sorry, Eliot. There's been a question here from Paul. The question reads there, is there a way to debug to the browser console, or do you need to explicitly raise the error for a particular scope of code?
No, so talking about two different things here. So for debugging, now when you're talking about debugging, so debugging in an email, if you've got AMPscript code that is incorrect, it will actually return an error when you go and preview the email, and give you a clue, mostly a pretty good clue of what's wrong, like you've missed a closing end statement or something. Raise error is a specific AMPscript function which is helpful if your data returns an unexpected or something returns an unexpected result, because at the end of the day, this is let's face it, this is database marketing, right? And it's impossible to accommodate for every single different permutation. And as one of the AMPscript best practices we talk about in our book is to build emails for resilience. Think about exception handling and exception conditions, and raise error function will actually cancel an email send or skip sending an email to a subscriber. Oh, now, so you see, for example, Cloud Pages. Cloud Pages is, now that's a different question altogether. But let me share a little tip. You're probably very frustrated if you've ever written AMPscript for Cloud Pages, in that you don't get that same helpful debugging output as you used to in the legacy landing pages in classic content. You'll just get a suppress it and display a generic 500 error. And this is frustrating on a couple of levels. So number one, obviously you've got no idea what that error is. And number two is that often the publishing process of deploying your code can take a few minutes because it goes through Akamai. This is published across a CDN. So your changes aren't always instantly reflected. But let me show you share a useful tip. So here I have a Cloud Page. This is something that I'm working on. And let me go and open that kind of code for the Cloud Page. In fact, I think, is this, no, I don't actually have it here. I'll just close that there. Here's one I created earlier. Let me just do Chicago, materials, landing pages, and order page. So something simple here. And I've actually gone and saved this to Dropbox. And I think I have, oh yes, there I have. And so I'm actually using an inline AMPscript function here, a nested function, to go and get that content. And then I said treat as content. So that is any AMPscript within, within this page will be interpreted as such. So once I've gone and saved this page, and let me go and modify it so you can see it changing, you'll notice that in Dropbox, I can go and get a publicly accessible link that looks like this. When I go and then all I have to do is change www to DL, which will, or download, which will provide a direct link to that raw source file. And so now when I go and preview this, this cloud page here, you see that probably not too much on the page, but let me go back to my order page here, and let me go and break some AMPscript. Maybe I've just haven't put a, failed to put a parameter in, for example. Now normally, or actually this isn't, let me, you see, I get this 500 server error. So I can see that this, I've saved the change in Dropbox and it's instantly been reflected. And while, you know, it doesn't show me what the error is, it enables me to, I guess, work in real time. And I can go and quickly comment out sections of AMPscript code to isolate, you know, what's causing that error. Another option is, of course, you can paste it within an email and get a clue. You know, providing that you're not using AMPscript functions that are specific to cloud pages. You know, like, I know, using an API function, for example, that doesn't work in email. But anyway, both of those techniques are good. Where you can see recording of the session, you can see quickest way to get there is go to sfmcdd.org, which will take you straight into the Trailblazor community. And there are 2 links on this very empty looking page. One is upcoming meetups, and one is links and resources. So there you can see that I'll be posting links to this presentation on this page. And here you can see actually links to download 4 presentations that we presented, 6 presentations, sorry, that we presented at the Salesforce Marketing Cloud Developer Group a workshop that we held at Connections. I encourage you to explore those. So yeah, I'll be posting the recording, I don't know, in the next couple of days. So great. Okay, that concludes the session. If you have any questions and would like to come out of this, you can schedule a chat with me. You can simply go to eliot.com.au to schedule a call. Or again, and for all your AMPscript questions, we hope to see you on Stack Exchange. Thanks for coming.